I'm going to speak to you about how to ditch diets. So let me start off by saying, what if I told you that you could learn to use your mind, your conscious and your unconscious mind, to free you from the repetitive, incessant diet roller coaster? And I'm not just talking about weight loss diets here. I'm talking about getting your health together, getting your health act together. And whether it is because you have a health issue that you want to sort out, or whether it is because you want weight that you've got weight that you want to shift, generally what happens is these programs are all characterized by short-term gains, and then they are with long-term failures. So what if I could tell you that you could enjoy nourishing, delicious food and still create the body that you would love? And what if you could absolutely ditch all the musts, the shoulds, the oughts that you are fed by the diet and nutrition gurus, and with information that's information, not inflammation, that's often very conflicting? Well, I do believe that we absolutely can. And tonight I want you to take you on a journey to show you how you can do that. Now, I'm going to just share my screen because those of you who know me know, I'm not good with slides, right? But I thought I'd make an effort tonight. So check it, me go. I have a slide presentation. I hope I'm going to be able to drive it properly. So here it is. So tonight I'm going to speak about how we can break the cycle of this temporary success followed by inevitable failure. Why it is that we can't actually get our health shit together. Because the truth is, we all actually know that being really healthy is relatively simple. It's eat whole, unprocessed foods, mostly plants, actually, and it's not much more complicated than that, and then you can choose whether you're going to add animal protein or vegetable protein, or do you eat nuts or don't you, or do you eat legumes, or is your meat sustainably farmed? The basic is eat whole, unprocessed foods, mainly vegetables, drink enough water, get enough sleep, regulate your stress, and make sure that your relationships are in good nick, and then your life will be okay. But a lot of us really stick with, and of course, move your body frequently. So a lot of us stick on one or many of those. And why is that? Well, that's what this particular presentation hopefully is going to highlight for you. So what qualifies me to do this? Well, as Mark said in the introduction, that was the very formal one. I don't know why everyone always picks that one. I think I'm going to take that one off the site or wherever it is they get it from, or out of the bio. I have been a homeopath in private practice for 25 years. I closed my practice about 2 years ago, in fact, just before lockdown. In order to start this community initiative. It hasn't quite got off the ground as well as what I would like it to, but it's in process. In the meantime, I am working as an online health and wellness coach, and I have a flagship program called Whole Body Reset, which I'll tell you a little bit about at the end, because basically it ties up all the principles that I'm going to speak to you about tonight. I'm not going to do any hard sell. I don't have a program starting next week. I don't have any freebies to give away. I'm just really, really passionate about helping people to actually get off this idea that we have to punish ourselves to health, that health is a pain, that health is hard, and that it always has to be a struggle. So I am a human and obviously have health issues, but I have had a yo-yo weight problem my whole life, probably since the age of about 6 or so, which is the first time I can remember really being overweight. And from the time that I was really tiny, I now, in retrospect, understand what I've done. What I did was, and I disconnected my head from my emotions and my physical body. And so I relied on my intellect. I relied on thinking to compensate. I tried to avoid feeling because it was really painful. And I soothed myself with food. Now, in many families and in many cultures and traditions, food is used as a soothing agent. It's not necessarily only used to feed stomach hunger. It's used to soothe all sorts of pain and discomforts. And we've got amazing emotional connections and emotional associations with food. My father's Italian. He was an Italian immigrant. My mother was an Afrikaner. Food was a big part of both of those cultures, and food was used as a soothing tool. And so as a consequence of that, I was fatter and thinner for much of my life. And in fact, still gain a few, lose a few, gain a few, lose a few. However, I got to a point where I realized, and I was probably about, well, I'll tell you now, I'm 51 now. So I was probably about 40, maybe just on over 40. And I realized that this whole diet treadmill, it doesn't matter how I'm dressing it up, whether I'm dressing it up as I'm regulating my inflammation, or whether I'm dressing it up as I'm really focusing on improving my heart health. The fact of the matter is, I'm actually trying to punish myself healthy. And that doesn't work. No one has ever flourished as a consequence of being punished. We flourish when we are nourished optimally. And that's really what the Whole Body Reset program is all about. So Why this particular program? Well, it's not actually because I'm obsessed with being fat or thin or healthy. I have a high value on health and on beauty, but that's not really it. It's because I know what my struggle and frustration is like. And also in my 25 years working with patients, my practice is very much lifestyle oriented, right? And so there is a basic tenet in homeopathy that the father of homeopathy, says in his sort of primary textbook called the Organon. And it basically says that we have to remove the obstacles to cure. Before we start worrying about medicine, before we start prescribing remedies, before we start putting in these massive interventions, we've got to look at what is actually contributing to the disease and what are those obstacles to the body being able to heal itself, because the body is a self-healing mechanism, but there are obstacles that get in the way. So an obstacle might be you are really allergic to mold and you live in an incredibly damp environment. You know what? Homeopathic medicine might actually be able to help that for you, but it's never going to take it away if the actual obstacle, which is the damp, is either not eradicated or you don't move, for example. Or, if you drink lots of soda and you eat lots of refined carbohydrates, those are certainly obstacles to health. And you then become a borderline diabetic. Of course, your diet is an obstacle to health. However, what I saw in my practice a lot is I would have people who'd come and they were desperate, right? Because very often homeopaths are not even primary contact practitioners. We're often like secondary or tertiary. When everyone's exhausted everything and they're desperate, generally they turn to complementary medicine. So people would come to me and they would have serious chronic conditions and they would be desperate. And of course, I changed their diets. Of course, I helped to modify the inflammation. That's what I did. It was a lifestyle-oriented practice. And what I would notice is that those people who were really, usually the more desperate, the more committed they would be. They would get on the wagon, they'd get it all together, they'd be really good, and they would improve. And some of them would be cured. And then I wouldn't see them, they made my patients for a couple of months, and then I wouldn't see them because they felt amazing. And then maybe in 2 months or 6 months time, I bump into them in the supermarket and they say to me, oh, doctor, I must really get another copy of that diet because it helped me so much. But after 8 weeks, I stopped doing it. And then slowly but surely, I just got out of the habit. And now all my symptoms have come back. And I was like, I was so frustrated because I felt that it was a failure on my part. And then I looked at my own life and I was going, well, why do I do this, gain 10 kilograms, go on some sort of diet, lose it, then gain it again, especially since I'm a person who's got a high value on health. I have generally a very healthy diet, other than some of the things that I do that are not particularly healthy. I exercise regularly. Why do I have a vested interest in this. I run an entire business around health. Why do I fall off the wagon? And that set me on a quest to find out what it is that lies behind why it is that we cannot nourish ourselves optimally. So I want to tell you a little story about my new training partner. So I'm not a gym bunny, but we have there is a training studio, it's all about functional fitness in East London. And long story, I decided to start training there this year. I gave something else up and I thought, okay, I'm going to start training. I'm going to start doing this functional fitness training. It's really good for you, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I started in February, and probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, my trainer said to me, do you mind? I don't have space. Do you mind if I get this new lady to start with you? So I'm going to call her Jackie. That's not her real name. She is probably about 59 years old, and she had some sort of hip issue, and she hasn't exercised. She was an exerciser, hasn't exercised for 2 years, and she's now diabetic, right? So she starts training with me. So the first thing I notice is, obviously, I've been training for 8 or 9 months. I'm much fitter than she is. We're in the same class. We do the same kind of exercises, but I just do mine at higher intensity and I do it for longer. Okay. And it's natural for us to want to compare and compete, but she punishes herself. I can just hear her negative self-talk when she can't keep up with me, first thing. Then I start getting to know her, and she is so hard on herself. She's on this amazingly hectic diet that 3 anorexic ants wouldn't survive on. So she is punishing herself with food. She works out. During the workout today, she had to stop twice. She berates herself because she can't get all the sets done. If she misses, she beats herself up. If she's cheated on her diet, she beats herself up. And she's so focused on what she's trying to get rid of, this excess body weight and this diabetes, not that she's trying to get rid of it, but she's trying to modify it, that she is 100% punishing herself to a state of wellness. That's what she's trying to do. And she's hating herself all along the way. And I'm like, Okay, so it's because I want to know why we keep on falling off the wagon that I've actually dedicated a lot of my life to learning how the stuff works. And it's also because this thing about where we hate ourselves and we think that the only way that we can get what we want, which is our ideal state of health, is by torturing ourselves and giving ourselves the equivalent of a whipping every day. You know what? It robs us of our joy. And I do believe that joy is our birthright, and health is as well. And so I think that there are more joyful ways that we can actually get to optimal health and high vitality. So anyway, that's a lot of blathering. So let me see if I can change this slide. So first of all, let me tell you about the agenda. So tonight I want to talk about a couple of things, primarily. And I'm going to have to go quite quickly because I don't really know how long this takes, and I'm going to try and finish this in 50 minutes. And there is a lot, all right? So I'm sure Mark will let you have the slides. And if you have any questions, you can always get hold of me afterwards. And I can point you in the direction of maybe some training materials if what I say is just too much and too quick. But I'm basically going to try and summarize a 6-week online program and its concepts and principles for you in about 45 minutes. So primarily, I'm going to talk about why conventional diets don't work, because they don't work. I want to talk about intuitive eating, and I want to talk about what I believe is missing in, okay, we know why conventional diets don't work. We're going to talk about it now. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about intuitive eating and my journey with that and why I found that didn't work either. And then what I think are the missing elements and what we do with those elements. And when we put it all together, how we can actually become our own health authorities. So why conventional diets don't work. So I discovered this in about 13 or 14 years ago. I discovered the work of Dr. John Demartini. I went to one of his programs and I thought to myself, oh my word, I've now got it. I'm never going to have to worry about diets and pills and even remedies, because if we just sort out people's minds, everything's going to be fine. Well, clearly it wasn't as easy as what I thought it was going to be. But one thing that I did learn from Dr. Demartini is that when we are very small, we have perceived voids, things that we think are missing in our lives. And so we develop a value on actually compensating for that. So I had petit mal kind of seizures when I was 3. So petit mal seizures are when you don't lose consciousness, you stay awake, but like nobody can get through to you. I had these kind of seizures just before I was 3 years old. And nobody knew what was wrong with me. And my mother was extremely anxious about this. And so was my father, of course. And I was the youngest of 3 children. And I felt like I'd been invisible, but was I seen when I had these seizures, right? So everybody was on Team Loretta when I had the seizures, which is probably why I unconsciously got them in the first place. But that's another story. And because it created such anxiety for my mother, not only then, but in any time any of her kids were sick, for me, I realized if health is missing, it creates massive anxiety. So there was a void, and that made me want to always be healthy, develop a value. So if you grew up, for example, incredibly poor, and it created enormous pain for you because there wasn't enough money, you may develop a high value on money. So if you have, we all have a hierarchy of values, right? It means that you have the top dog, and then you have the second in command and the third and so on. And we only have enough resources to truly power our top 3 or 4 values. And what I mean by truly power them is we've only got enough resources to be prepared to pay the price that's required for the top 2 or 3 values. People who seem to find it effortless to eat well, exercise regularly, and look after their health, because we all know those people, right? They happen to have a high value on health. They happen to have it as a priority naturally. It's like your hierarchy of values is like a default setting in a computer. And you've got it and you can change it, but not if you're not aware of it. So most of us are unaware of it. We're running on autopilot. And if you don't have a high value on health, you're not going to be prepared to pay the price. You're going to want the gains, but you're not going to want to put in the effort. So whatever you've got a high value on, you will dedicate yourself to, you'll set long-term goals to, you'll be disciplined, you'll be focused. And whatever you've got a low value on, you will desire the outcomes, but you'll sabotage and you'll hesitate and you'll procrastinate. So if we don't understand what our value hierarchy is, and we don't actually understand how we can change it, and you and me or whoever, we happen not to have health as a high value, then we're going to be the stop starters. We're going to be the ones who get it together for a while, harness our discipline, we can be really good, and then we fall off the wagon. Or we're going to be those people who go, I've tried to exercise, I just can't, or I just can't stop eating sugar, or whatever the case may be. Now, people with a high value on health are going to judge those people as lazy or slobs or lacking discipline. But the truth is, in your top 2 or 3 values, everybody is disciplined and focused. And in your bottom values, everybody hesitates, sabotages, and procrastinates. So one of the reasons why conventional diets don't work is because the reason why we're in bad shape, whether that's overweight or we've got disease, is because our lifestyle has not lent itself to health. No shame involved. If you don't have any money, it's because you don't have a high value on money, because you never save any. If you don't have a value on, if you don't love working, well, you probably just don't have a value on it. The issue is that some values are more valued societally than others. So the truth is, if you don't have a high value on health, and if you don't know how to get that value on health, and you can literally program your mind to do that, then you're going to struggle. So you're going to harness your willpower. It's going to work for a while, and then you're going to fall off the wagon. The second reason why conventional diets don't work is because we essentially give our power away to the method or the system or the health authority. So basically, while I was enticing my patients with the carrot and the stick, and let me tell you, in the earlier years of my practice, I did soften a bit. I was scary. It was like my way or the highway. It was boot camp, baby. And people would come back and they'd go, "Oh, I was too scared to break the diet because I knew I'd have to come back and tell you after a month that I cheated," or whatever the case may be, right? Which was me trying to punish them healthy. It wasn't a great way, but it did have had short and long-term benefits for some. But the fact of the matter is, we give our power away to the method or the system. We become so focused on the system that we're not focused on what we're trying to create. And in actual fact, if the system is designed to help us lose weight, the system is focusing on the excess weight. If the system is designed to help us improve our inflammation, the focus is still on the inflammation. And what that means is we give our power to the system. So if you cheat on your diet, 59 lashes with the cat of 9 guilt tails, swim in the pool of guilt, imbibe from the fountain of guilt, because you've broken the rules. So the authority is outside you. It's the diet, or the doctor, or it's the nutritionist, or it's the personal trainer, or it's the actual diet or the program itself. The third reason why this doesn't work is because our focus, where's your focus, creates your reality, not your attitude. So you can be super positive. You can be very inspired. You can affirm every single day that I'm losing weight in perfectly every single way, or whatever your affirmation may be. And you can be the most positive person in the world, and it might still not work, because your focus, where your focus is consciously, is what you're creating. So if you're focusing on the fact that you hate and that you're trying to lose, your focus is not on your healthy body. Your focus is on I'm too fat. So what do you eventually perpetuate once your discipline runs out? Well, you create more of I'm too fat or I'm too unhealthy. And the fourth reason why diets don't work, and for diets here, I'm not talking just about weight loss diets. I'm talking about this. This applies to people who are underweight and don't eat. This applies to people who are overweight. This applies to people who are of normal weight but have chronic disease issues like diabetes or chronic inflammation or arthritis. It doesn't matter, all right? So please, when I'm saying diet, I'm just talking about diet and health as one. I'm clumping it all into one. Signs and symptoms, and excess weight is a sign, is an unconscious way of trying to get your values met. Now, I said we've all got this hierarchy of values. The problem is that whenever you support someone's values, they warm up and open up to you. And when you challenge their values, they shut down to you. So we learn from the time that we're tiny that when we support the values of authorities, our parents, our teachers, our preachers, then we are good and we don't get punished. And when we challenge their values, then we are bad and we get punished, which means that we very often are not actually living congruently with our own values. We're living congruently with the values of others. And when you're doing that, the more you're doing that, the more your body is trying to get you back to be congruent with who you really are. And that's actually what signs and symptoms are. They're an unconscious way of getting our values met when we are not living congruently with these. Now, I can speak to you for a whole hour on values. I don't think they're important enough for that. But I'm just touching on the concept. If you want to know more about values, Dr. John DeMartini is the expert on this. And I just want to say about values, we're not talking about moral concepts. We're not talking about things like integrity and truth. We're talking about what is it that you prioritize time, effort, energy, and resource towards. Where do you spend your time on? What do you spend your money on? What do you think about? What do you talk about? Where are you disciplined? Where are you focused? Those are what he calls your values. So if you go onto his website, you can actually do a free value determination. It's Dr. DeMartini, DeMartini.com. If you Google it, you'll find it easily. So this is why conventional diets don't work. Now, John DeMartini said, the mind always lies. The body never does. That's why God put the clues in the body. So your body is essentially feeding back to you what's happening in your unconscious mind that you can't access consciously. When you know how to do that, if that's all you learn to do, your life can change significantly, and so can your health. Now, let me just see where I am on my notes here, because I never use notes either. And that makes me go on for hours and hours. All right. So one of the ways that you uncover this unconscious agenda is when you have a sign or symptom. So let's just say that, let's just use weight because it's easy. Let's say you're 10 kilograms overweight and I go, oh, I hate my stomach because it's too this, and I don't like my arms, and I don't like my bum, whatever it is that you, it's, the reason why I want to lose the 10 kilograms is because I don't like them, okay? And I can only see the negative. I go, oh, this weight is making my knees hurt, and it's making me less flexible, and I don't look good in my clothes, and I can't wear a bathing suit, and I'm too self-conscious to go to the beach, whatever, all right? So we know what we hate about it. So we are seeing one side. We're seeing the price we pay, but we are not seeing the benefit we're getting. Now, when I used to say to my patients, I need you to go and make a list of 150 benefits of the signs and symptoms that you have, this pain that you're sitting with, they'd look at me like, lady, did you just fall through a piece of cheese? I mean, are you a real fruitcake, right? Because we go, well, the reason we don't want to find the benefits, because if we find how it serves us, then it means that we won't want to get rid of it. That's not the truth. Ironically, when you find how it is serving you, you take away the resistance to having it, and you literally become grateful for it. And once you remove the resistance, you open the door to being able to change it. So what I mean by this is, you know, I'd have to ask myself, how does this extra 10 kilograms benefit me? Well, I'll tell you, one of the major benefits to me of being overweight when I was younger was that it forced me to exercise. No one in my family was a big exerciser, actually. Now, they're certainly not my parents. They didn't encourage it. So, but because I was overweight, I always exercised. And in actual fact, I only found out when I was much older, when I started doing genetic testing for my patients, and I had my own genetic profiling done, that I have a particular gene that, so many genes are affected beneficially by exercise, but I have a particular gene that's associated with hormone function that is switched off. Its action is potentiated. In other words, it's compensated for, because it's not a great gene to have, by regular cardiovascular exercise, B vitamins and magnesium. So I've always taken B vitamins and I've always taken magnesium. When I say always, probably for 30 years. And I have always been an exerciser, regardless of how heavy or light I ever was. I would never have been a consistent exerciser if I didn't have the extra 20 kilograms. So without the consistent exercise, I wouldn't have had the heart health. I've never had hormone issues, never. In theory, based on my genetic profile, I am a good candidate for having really bad hormonal issues. Never had a hormone problem, a reproductive hormone problem in my entire life. So that is the benefit of finding the benefit. So if you want to uncover what your agenda is, if you want to start working on your, whatever it is that you want to get rid of, right? The first thing you do is ask yourself, what does it force you to be, do, or have? So in my case, the excess weight forces me to exercise. And then how does the exercise benefit me? What have I ever benefited from the exercise? So, and this is just because I can relate to myself much easier than to anyone else. So because I'm an exerciser, I did yoga for 10 years. I started surfing when I was 35. Because I'd done the yoga, I could actually start surfing because I was confident enough that I was strong enough. And then when I was 39, I went to a karate competition, a world karate championship, and I saw the master and he did this demonstration. I was like, oh my word, I want to be zen like that guy. And I said to my husband, how long is it going to take to get a black belt? My husband is a karate guy, and he said, oh, about 6 or 7 years. And I thought, I'm 39, 45. That's still young enough. That's still young enough to do it. So and just the karate has it's a whole story in its own. It's like the karate has had unending benefits in my life. The yoga has had huge numbers of benefits in my life. The surfing has had massive benefits in my life. And without the weight that triggered the need to exercise, I probably wouldn't have had any of those experiences. That's a benefit. That's something I can be truly grateful to myself for. So this doesn't mean that I go, oh, well, if I don't keep the 10 kilograms, I'm never going to exercise. I've been an exerciser my whole life. I can get rid of the 10 kilograms and still be an exerciser. Okay. But that is how you uncover what your unconscious agenda is. I'll tell you my unconscious agenda behind weight. One of the big ones that I found is that I used to think that I was invisible when I was little, and it makes me visible. And quite frankly, I used to associate, before I made this connection, I used to associate slim with beautiful, with not intelligent, therefore not taken seriously. And quite frankly, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would you rather be seen as beautiful or intelligent? I'd say to you, I would rather die than be seen only as beautiful and people think I'm stupid, because I had a massive charge on being perceived as being stupid. So that's how you uncover what your body is actually trying to tell you. It's the most amazing piece of kit, really. Okay, I digress. I'm never going to get through all of this. Right. So the next thing is intuitive eating. So here I was. So I've been exercising. I've been doing all the diets. And honestly, I've done just about them all. Okay. Almost all of them, right? I've been a plant-based. I've been a ketoer. I've been a Paleolithic eater. I've been a low carb, high fatter. I've been a high carb, low fatter. I've been a raw food. I've been there, done that, most of it, right? I wasn't so good with the raw one, I must be quite honest with you. But that on its own didn't work. And that with the exercise and drinking the water and sleeping enough, which is all the things that I was doing, wasn't enough. I was still falling off the wagon. Then I decided about 12 years ago, I'm never going to diet again. I realized this is punishing. My life's too short for this. I cannot be doing this to myself. So I vowed I was never going to go on a diet again. I thought, okay, well, now I'm going to have to find a different way to do this. And then I discovered the work of John DeMartino. I was like, oh my God, all I have to do is find the benefits, balance all my charges, and then I'll be thin and rich and happy forever. Well, clearly that wasn't it. Then I discovered a book on, it was something to do with like how to use the power of your mind to lose weight. And in this book, there happened to be this little section that said, the secrets of slim people. And the secrets of naturally slim people is that they eat only when they're physically hungry. They eat whatever they want. They don't really restrict what they're going to eat. They generally eat fairly slowly, and they never eat when they fall. Like when they've had enough, they stop. No matter how delicious it is, it was like, okay, this sounds like the bomb. So I called those the 4 magic moves, and then I added a 5th one, all right? And so I used to call those the 5 magic moves. I thought, okay, now I found it. Okay, what I discovered was the 5 magic moves has a name, and it's called intuitive eating, and that there's this entire movement called intuitive eating. Okay, so I didn't know that. It took me about 3 years to realize, oh my goodness, I thought my 5 magic moves are the only ones in the universe. And then I realized, oh, hello, there's a whole movement called intuitive eating. So I thought, okay, so this is what we have to do. Intuitive eating is a feminine way of doing it. It's not punishing. It is more nourishing. It makes such sense. You're listening to your body. You're eating only when you're physically hungry. So, you're obviously calorie restricting automatically. There are no horrible rules. You just have to stick to these guidelines. And they worked really well for me for a while. And in fact, they worked really well for the people to whom I taught them. And then I found that sometimes they didn't work that well. And I was like, oh, okay, here we are. I'm stuck again. So now I've got intuitive eating. I've got the mind body thing. I've got the intuitive eating, and I've got a high value on health. Why am I not actually getting this together? So this is where the missing elements come in. So the missing elements, according to Loretta, okay, so sorry, they are the 5 magic moves for you, right? Focus on my first one is focus on what you're trying to create, not on what you're trying to fix. So if you're focusing on getting rid of the fat or rid of your signs and symptoms, your focus is on your signs and symptoms. If you're focusing on creating vibrant health, you're focusing on vibrant health. I have a friend, she's really, she was an acquaintance of mine, and she's become a friend of mine, even though we don't see each other very much. And she had cancer. And she keeps on talking about how she lived this anti-cancer lifestyle. But the reason why she had an anti-cancer lifestyle was because she was terrified of getting cancer, and how horrified she was when she got cancer. So she was a yogi, and she meditated, and she ate the raw food, and she did all the spiritual stuff and all the healthy stuff and and she still got cancer. And the reason why she realized is because she had a lot of shadow stuff that she wasn't dealing with, but also because she was not doing that lifestyle because she wanted to actually experience joy and vitality of health. She was following that lifestyle because she was frightened of getting cancer. It sounds like splitting hairs, but that is where your focus is. Is your focus on the disease? Is your focus on the fear of what it is you're trying to avoid? Or is it focused on the love of what you would love to create? It's really, very important. I'm going to talk about that a lot more. The second one is to eat only when you're physically hungry. Now, there's a difference between stomach hunger and heart hunger. Stomach hunger is a physical hunger sensation that comes from your stomach. Heart hunger is when you're not actually physically hungry, but you feel like something to eat. Heart hunger cannot be nourished with food. Heart hunger needs to be nourished with a hug or connection or introspection or prayer or something, but not food. And so when you eat only when you're physically hungry, you start noticing how often you eat, either habitually or to soothe. Eat what you truly feel will nourish you optimally. You can eat whatever you want to, but the question you ask yourself is this nourishing? What can I eat right now? So I'm physically hungry. Yes, I'm physically hungry. Okay, what can I eat right now that is nourishing? And I'll tell you now, I used to pack my lunch when I used to work in my office, right? And so I never packed food I didn't like. So it was always something that I would like to eat, right? Because it was something that I would ordinarily eat. And on the days when I didn't feel like my lunch, it was because I wasn't physically hungry. If I waited until I was really physically hungry, whatever food I had with me was the most delicious thing that I could have eaten. If I was like, I'm really hungry, but I don't really feel like I don't know, couscous salad or whatever it is that I made, when I normally love that, it's like, oh, maybe you're not physically hungry. Okay. Eat slowly and without distraction. No watching in front of the TV. No watching while you're driving your car. No watching while you're on no eating while you're on social media. No eating when you're on your computer. And stop before you fall. So this doesn't mean stop when you're hungry. It's just, when you think, if you're not sure you've had enough, what's the worst that can happen? In half an hour, if it's real stomach hunger, because you didn't eat enough, you can always eat again. Because there's no rule that says you're not allowed to eat for 5 hours or whatever the case may be. So those are the 5 magic moves. Okay, so let's talk about what's missing. So the first thing I think is, these are not in any kind of order, all right, but is that energy matters. So we have, hang on, I just want to see what my slide, oh, there we go. That's just a little technique I want to show you. So we have these physical bodies, these biochemical bodies, right? And biomechanical, our muscles and our joints and our tendons and our ligaments and our bones, those are the biomechanical part. And the biochemical part are all the things that we can measure, our hormone levels, our blood count, that kind of thing. But then we have a bioelectric part in the body. We have an energetic body, right? So for many of you who follow Mark and who know Mark really well, this is not news to you. But for some people, this is news. And essentially in your energy body is the blueprint for your being. And so your energy body needs work. Now, most people either A, don't believe it exists, and even if they do believe it exists, they don't work on it. Or every now and again, they have a Reiki treatment from someone, or they have an energy treatment from someone, and then that's enough. But you eat every day to maintain your physical body. So I believe you have to maintain your energy body every day. And there are various ways of doing that. Okay. So I'm going to share with you a technique that I found really useful and that I teach all my clients and that I teach to everyone who comes to my workshops, because it's really easy. You can teach children how to do this, and it helps you to integrate your energy more fully. And if you do this practice once or twice a day, more if you want to, you will see that your energy starts shifting. And when your energy blueprint shifts, then of course the rest of you shifts. Now, why is it important to manage our energy? Because our energy essentially determines how much energy we have to become aware of where our focus is and shift it. So everything that I'm going to teach you the basic principles of how I believe creation works, and it's not my theory. Okay, people much cleverer than I am have come up with it, and it's all about shifting your focus onto what you love, from what you don't want to what you want. Right? Easy. Not easy when your energy is scattered everywhere. So our energy is often scattered in trauma. Our energy is scattered in where our mind is. Our energy is scattered in what we're anxious about the future. Our energy is scattered by emotional things that make us feel emotional. Our energy gets scattered by getting involved in the drama of our lives and other people's lives. The more your energy is scattered, the less integrated it is, the less energy you literally have, A, to do what you need to do, but also B, to maintain your focus and your awareness, because it requires practice and it requires awareness. So energy really matters. So most programs do not focus on your energy. Most programs don't teach you tools and techniques to work on your energy body. So my preferred tool and technique is a beautiful Japanese healing art called Shinjutsu. I have got it written on the next slide. You'll be able to see the spelling. Shinjutsu literally means the art of the creator through compassionate and knowing man. So Shinjutsu is the creator's gift to anyone who cares enough and knows where to put their hands. And our hands in Shinjutsu are like jumper cables, because your hands have polarity. And basically when you put your hands onto certain areas of the body, then you help the energy to flow. And one of the easiest things to do is called the Shinjutsu Big Hug. So when you do the Shinjutsu Big Hug, and I'm going to go to that slide and just tell you about it now and show you. This is the Shinjutsu Big Hug demonstrated. So if you place your thumb on your chest, your fingers underneath your armpit, your opposite thumb on the other side of your chest, and your fingers under your armpit, you are holding at the edge of your lat here. Oh, no, you can see I've got this here at the edge of your lat. Is a energy area called safety energy lock number 26. In Shinjutsu, they have energy areas called safety energy locks. And the one in the front is safety energy lock number 13. Now, safety energy lock number 26 is associated with the blueprint. And it is that part of us that exists through all time and space and connects us literally to the source of creation. And when we hold the chest, we're opening safety energy lock number 13. So we're opening this chest area. We're opening our ability to receive love. And safety energy lock number 13 means love thy enemies. And you are the most vulnerable person in your life, and probably the person that you treat worse than you treat your worst external enemy. So when we do the Shinjutsu big hug, what we're doing is we're holding these energy centers, and then you sit with your spine erect, or you lie with your spine erect, you close your eyes and you just focus on your breathing. You don't alter your breathing. You don't try and make it deeper. You just focus on the inhale and the exhale, and you count 36 cycles of inhalation and exhalation. So one in and out is one, in and out is two. 36 aware and conscious breaths is all we need for perfect health, wealth, and happiness. Now, when I tell my clients this, or the people in my online programs, have you done your Shinjutsu big hug? They're like, oh yeah, oh, the Shinjutsu big hug, that's amazing. But they don't do it. You know why? Too simple, too easy, and we don't know that it works. But here's the thing with energy. It's like electricity. Do you understand the physics behind electricity? Because I don't. I'll be quite honest with you. Have you ever seen electricity? Well, I've never, because you can't see it, but I can see the effect of it. I know what it's like when there's no electricity. I know that if I flip the switch, the light will come on, and then the room will be enlightened, okay? Or the computer will work. So the effect of what's happening in your energy body is what you perceive and what is visible to you as signs and symptoms in your physical body. So we don't only do the Shinjutsu big hug in my programs. I teach people other Shinjutsu as well. But the Shinjutsu is an integral part to working on your energy. Now, you can work on your energy in different ways. You can do yoga, you can do contemplative prayer, you can do qigong, you can do tai chi, you can earth yourself, you can spend time in nature, you can journal. There are lots of ways that you can affect your energy. This is just a tool and a technique that literally is directed at affecting your energy in a certain way. And because it's so simple, anyone can do it. So the first thing, the reason why we can't stick to our diets and our health programs is the missing elements is because we don't take care of our energy body. The second one is because we believe that we are attractors and we're not creators. Now, this might be controversial, and you might also say it's splitting hairs. I was a big proponent of the law of attraction, read just about, like 10 books on it, actually wrote an entire manual around it, created an entire workshop around it. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. It's not what I'm saying. But it doesn't work for many people, actually. Actually, I am saying that. And part of the reason why I believe it doesn't work is because when we are attracting, then the power is outside of us again. If we don't fix ourselves in order to be good enough to resonate with that thing that we're trying to attract, then we can't get it. And the more we don't get it, the more we believe there's something wrong with us, the harder we have to fix what's wrong with us, the less we're resonating with what we're trying to attract. So for me, attraction sounds like it's passive and we're giving our power away to the universe or to creation or to the law itself. It doesn't matter. Whereas I believe that we're creators. So, you know, most religions teach that human beings are made in the image of God and that there's a part of you that is eternal and that exists throughout all time and space. You can call it your soul, you can call it your higher self, your essence. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we call it. The fact of the matter is that if we are made in the image of the creator, that means that we are creators. We are creating our reality every single day. And we're creating it by choice. But we're always creating it, whether we are conscious of the choices or whether we are unconscious. And the trick is to become conscious and aware. And that's another reason why you need energy. Because if your energy is all over the place, it's very difficult to become conscious and aware. The third thing is that people don't understand the law of duality, and that we live in this world of seeming duality, and we have these lopsided perceptions that then cause us to have emotions. We essentially have likes and dislikes. When someone likes the same thing you do, then you like that person. When someone challenges or discredits something that you believe in or that you really like, then you say that person's an asshole. So the truth is that person is both awesome and an asshole, depending on whose values they're supporting or challenging. But the truth is that that person is actually both. It's actually neutral. And that every event, person, or circumstance in your life is neutral. And if we could truly get that, then we would be in a position of equanimity, you know, so all this being in the now and, you know, like everything is the way it is right now is, you know, the way it is, it can be no other way. And truly, if we truly could live that, then we wouldn't be pulled from our, we wouldn't be in disharmony. But most people think that you can have success without failure, that you can have happy without sad, and they don't realize that happy and sad and success and failure come together as a package. Again, we could talk about this for hours. I'm trying to get through it really quickly. The fourth missing element is emotions. Emotions want to be felt. They don't want to be fixed. And I told you when I was a child, I disconnected, I started living in my head and not in my emotions, my body, because this is painful, right? And so it was easier to reject this part and actually just rely on my intellect. Many of us do that. And most of us operate in terms of distracting or denying or suppressing. That's how we deal with emotions. We distract ourselves, comfort, eat. We deny that we have them. I'm okay. I'm absolutely perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with me. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, done the therapy, no longer an issue. Okay. Or we deny we've even got it. No, it doesn't affect me at all. So, or we try and fix what we think is an emotional issue. Emotions are like waves of energy. They peak, they break, and they recede, but only if you allow them to be felt. If you try and rationalize them, it's the form of suppression. If you deny them, it's a form of suppression. If you suppress them, it's obviously a form of suppression. And your emotions are your thoughts made physical. So you have a perception, something comes in through your senses, you judge it, you call it a good or bad thing, you have a thought, and then you generate an emotion. And that emotion is literally a chemical cascade that is released by your neurotransmitters, and it goes to every single cell of your body. So emotions want to be felt, they don't want to be fixed. So if I want to comfort eat and I'm dying for chocolate, and I'm definitely not hungry, and it's chocolate that I want because I want to soothe. And so instead of actually addressing what needs soothing, and so I might find it's my anxiety that needs soothing, but I might be anxious because I'm in a relationship that actually I know doesn't serve me any longer. Do you know what? It's much easier to eat the chocolate than it is to address the relationship. Of course it is. So that's how we actually suppress our emotions. So any program that, anything that you want to do, in my opinion, it's my opinion only, and you may disagree with me, I'm okay with that. But, and it's my experience as well, is that if you don't address these, the reason why we can't stick to the rules of intuitive eating, the reason why we can't discipline ourselves well enough to stick on that health part consistently, whether it's health or money or relationships or work, it doesn't matter. This applies to any area, but health is my bag. So this is the area in which I teach, right? So, so when we don't address it holistically, then we are essentially doomed to repeating the cycle over and over and over. So let's see what I've got on my next slide. Okay, so that's your Shinjutsu big hug. That's a little tip for you. So I want to talk about how reality creation works. Now, please, I know that most of you probably know some of this. You might know all of this. This is based very much on the work of a man called Robert Fritz. He wrote a book called The Path of Least Resistance. And he was a composer, I think. I can't remember when, not long ago, but like 100 years ago, modern. And he observed that creative people are driven to create works of art. And that there is a process. There is a dependable, you can follow it process of creation, but then we don't apply that to our lives. And Robert Fritz's work was then taken further by a guy called William Whitecloud. William Whitecloud wrote a book called The Secrets of Natural Success. So what I'm going to tell you now is a distillation really of some of Robert Fritz's work and some of William Whitecloud's work. This is not Loretta's work. What Loretta can tell you is that since she started applying this in her life, it has changed exponentially. So reality creation myths. Let's first talk about the myths. The first myth is that your attitude determines what you attract. Okay, so first of all, remember, we're not attracting, we're creating. And quite frankly, if you think about really famous artists like Vincent van Gogh, he was depressed and he killed himself. Beethoven, do you think he was like excited when he started going deaf and he couldn't hear the music any longer? Mozart, he died when he was 26 in penury. The fact is that they were still prolific creators, more or less up until the time they died. And so they weren't necessarily happy. But they were driven to create these things for the sake of bringing this thing to the world, okay? And so you don't have to be peppy, you don't have to be happy, and you don't have to be positive in order to create what you'd love. Of course, it helps because it becomes a more joyful process for you. And in actual fact, as you start becoming more proficient at creating, you generally become a more joyful human being, which is what we're after. But you can have a bad day. You can grieve for 3 months. You can be pissed at the person who broke your heart, and you can still create what you love. You do not have to have a positive attitude. The second myth is that you're broken and you need to be fixed before you can create what you love. And I found, for me, certainly that was my understanding of the law of attraction. When I was thinking it and I was feeling it and I was reaching for that better feeling emotion and I was trying to align with it and I was trying to like connect to the cosmic field of all possibilities. And then if it didn't arrive, I'd be like, oh my God, Loretta, you're not doing this right. You're not actually, maybe you're just not good enough at this. Or you know what, actually, maybe you're not just not worthy. You're not worthy because you're not vibrating at a vibration high enough to actually be in resonance with that amazing thing that you're trying to create. I personally call bullshit on that because there's no power in that whatsoever. And in order to be creative, you need to access your own power. And the third one is that we can only create what's possible or probable. Now, many people go, no, you know, what you can conceive, what you conceive, you can achieve, right? The problem is if you're conceiving it only through your conscious mind is ego driven. It means that you have a limit because your ego has always got boundaries. So what you are maybe putting on your vision board is not necessarily a soul related goal. You can only reach that in this creative orientation method intuitively. You have access it through you access it through your intuition and your imagination. For those of you who don't know me, I'm probably one of the most left-brain logical people in the whole universe. Honestly, if I heard myself 5 years ago speaking about the things that I'm speaking about now, I would be like, oh my God, Loretta, you have totally lost the plot. I'm a slow learner. It's taken me a long time to realize that the key is intuition and imagination. So those are our reality creation myths. So how do we create? So remember I said to you, your focus, not your attitude or your emotions, creates your reality. Where is your focus? And the second thing is really important is that you have to be prepared to not know. Right? Now, what does that mean? Well, your ego is constantly trying to know how things are, how you are, how others are, how the world is. Your ego is like, it's always trying to draw a map. Your ego is drawing a map for you about how you are and therefore how life is as a consequence of how you are. So your ego always wants to know. That's why when something happens to us that's very painful emotionally, so, you know, somebody dies unexpectedly, for example, or someone is hit by like a hectic diagnosis, we always go, why? If I could just understand why that happened. The truth is that is your ego saying that if you could rationalize it, it wouldn't hurt so much. But that's not the truth because the pain will still be there because the person is still lost to you. So your ego always wants to know. And in order to truly go with your intuition and your imagination, you have to be prepared to not know. You have to be prepared to not know the how. You have to be prepared to allow the how to unfold or to use your intuition. There's a system on how to do this. There's a process to actually allow that to unfold. And the third is that you need to create a structure. You need to create a structure for your creation. And what that means is it needs two things. It needs you to know what your soul, what is your soul desire? What is your equivalent of the Pastoral Symphony, Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony? What is your equivalent of that? All right. You need to know that. And the second thing is you need to know what is your reality? What's your ego telling you that's true? Because just like in order to light a light bulb, you need to connect the light bulb to the positive and the negative terminal of a battery. You can't just connect it to the positive terminal. This is what I'd love. But all my fears, beliefs, my limitations, those things, I don't know about that. So I'm just going to ignore that. And this is what very often happens when people practice personal development bypass or spiritual bypass. We go from one book to the next, from one program to the next, from one teacher to the next, from one guru to the next, and nothing really seems to change in our lives. Partly, I believe it's because we've become so indoctrinated with this sort of psychology of happiness, okay, is that, we've always got to be positive. But you can't actually, your car wouldn't go if the crocodile clips were not connected to both battery terminals. And this is imperative when it comes to creation. So we have 3 streams of consciousness feeding into our subconscious. Okay, so let me just go and say, your subconscious creates your reality. In your physical body, your subconscious controls your autonomic nervous system, and your autonomic nervous system consists of your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system, and literally controls all the automatic functions in your body. So whether you make hormones, whether your muscles grow, whether you ovulate, how you digest, how you eliminate, how often your heart beats, what your respiratory rate is, it's all governed via your autonomic nervous system, okay? So your autonomic nervous system is not under your voluntary control. Your subconscious controls that. And your subconscious essentially is a neutral observer. Now, your subconscious is not part of these three streams of consciousness. Your subconscious is the observer that carries out the command to do whatever it is that your focus is on. And your subconscious is neutral. It doesn't give a rat's whether what you're focusing on is a good thing or whether what you're focusing on is going to bring you pain. It doesn't care. So you've got these three streams of consciousness. You've got your superconscious self or your higher mind or your soul. Like, what would your soul love to create? That's, you access that via your imagination and your intuition. Then you have your self-conscious. That's your mind. That's your conscious mind. My self-conscious mind is busy having this conversation with you. And it's also the seat of your willpower. This is your egoic mind, how things are, the reality, discipline, willpower. That's this. And then you have your unconscious self. This is your egoic self. This is your default setting. It's like the default setting on your computer. The difference is that you don't change your default settings. You can only become aware of them. These are your default habits. This is limited, okay? This is your reality as defined by how you are, how others are, and how the world is. So you've got these three streams of consciousness. Primarily your superconscious and your unconscious. Yeah, I've got another diagram. So here's your unconscious. I've called it your victim. Here's your self-conscious, which is your conscious mind. And yeah, I've called your superconscious your hero, right? Actually, your hero is not the good one and the victim, the bad one. Remember, you need them both. You can't create without the two of them. You need them both. But essentially, your hero is sending signals to your subconscious, and your victim is also sending signals to your subconscious, commands, essentially. And whichever one is really sending the most traffic, assuming that this was an on-ramp onto a freeway, whichever on-ramp is most densely populated, that's what your subconscious is going to carry out. Now, this is what it carries out in your physical body, and this is what it carries out in the reality around you, because your physical body is the thing that makes you able to do your habits. I don't know if that was good English, but you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So your physical body essentially is run via your subconscious, and your subconscious creates your reality, and it responds to whichever signal is the loudest. And the strength of the signal here is determined by your focus. And your self-conscious, this is your will. So if you realize, oh my word, this is where my focus has been for the last 25 years. If you're one of those people who, and again, no judgment, it's just information, who is trying to be healthy because you're terrified of being sick. Well, this is where your focus is. Your focus is here. So you need to discover what your soul really wants relative to your health, and there are ways of doing that. I'll try and explain it to you in, I probably won't get to it, but I'll try. And your self-conscious then, here, your conscious mind, this is your willpower. It chooses whether you're going to keep your focus here or whether you're going to shift your focus here. So you know how your life is your life is an accumulation of all the choices you've ever made, whether you've made them consciously or unconsciously. Most people live compulsively driven by this all the time. The more awareness you have and the more you appreciate how creation truly works, the more you can literally start choosing. Instead of having to use your willpower not to eat chocolate, you use your willpower to shift your focus on whether what you would love to create, or do you want to soothe your ego that says, oh, you know what, it's better for you just to eat the chocolate right now. Oh, Loretta, you know what, you're not actually worthy of being really healthy, so just eat the chocolate. It's not going to make a difference. Just have it. You get to choose. This is different to being at the whims of fate, the universe, your genes. Every time you give your power away, you lose some of your energy and you dim your ability to shift your focus. So this is just another way of illustrating this. Your soul-inspired choice for health. So in other words, I choose the end result. I literally choose the end result of, I did one just the other day. I choose the end result of clear, pure, vibrant health. And I discovered those words intuitively. I didn't make them up, all right? And this is my limiting belief. I'm not worthy. I'm invisible. I'm not good enough. So this is my negative battery terminal. I've got the clip hooked onto that, and I've got the clip hooked onto this. And here, this is my willpower, my conscious mind that says, Loretta, which one are you going to be focusing on? Are you focusing here? Are you taking action? So where are you focusing? And then are you taking action that's in alignment with this? Or are you taking that in action with an alignment with this? Now, the action could be the same. Eating healthily, you'd be eating healthily if you were scared of getting sick, or you'd be eating healthily if you wanted to be super healthy. But where your focus is going to determine the results you get and the longevity of those results. I hope this is making sense. I do see that there's a question in the Q&A. I'm going to try and answer the questions at the end, okay? So that those people who've had enough of me can actually leave if they need to. So your limiting beliefs, I need to talk to you about this because this is part of your egoic makeup. So your limiting beliefs are formed between the ages of 0 and 3, and they're part of your ego identification. So remember, your ego wants to know how you are. It teaches you how you are in the world. So how am I? Am I worthy? Am I unworthy? Am I powerless? Am I powerful? Can I trust myself? How are others? Well, you know, if I believe I'm worthy, then maybe I believe that others are cruel, or maybe I believe that others are inconsiderate, and then maybe I believe that the world is cruel. So those are our limiting beliefs, are formed by our trauma that we experience between the ages of 0 and 3. Now, you may have a story that is dramatically traumatic. So, you know, you may have been abandoned, or, you know, something terrible may have happened to you before the age of 3. Or you may just have had what you would call a regular 0 to 3-year-old childhood. The fact of the matter is that if you were crying and you were left to cry because your mom thought controlled crying was a good way to sleep train you, maybe, and you perceived that the reason why she didn't come was because she doesn't love you and that you're not worthy of being loved and that you actually are not worthy of being soothed, then you would develop a limiting belief of I'm not worthy. Your ego then convinces you that your life's mission is to fix or compensate these limiting beliefs, so that you can soothe them, so that they don't pain you anymore. So what that does is it keeps us focused on compensating for I'm not worthy. So for example, I'm not worthy has a compensatory behavior of trying to be a good person. Now, please, all of us who are good people, actually, I'm not worthy is the most common limiting belief. We've probably all got it, okay? So, so you could be a good person unconsciously, or you could choose to be a good person with awareness, and not do it from a place of I'm not worthy. And the difference is that when you are trying to be altruistic from a place of I'm not worthy, you very often burn yourself out, you get taken advantage of, and you end up on welfare yourself, energetically or financially or whatever the case may be. When you do it consciously, you are still able to do that good that you want to do in the world, but it doesn't burn you out, and you don't have to deplete yourself in order to do this. And the more you're trying to compensate for your limiting belief, the more you're focusing on where your limiting belief, the more you're creating a reality that ultimately shows you that your limiting belief is true. Now, your limiting beliefs are triggered whenever you perceive a conflict. And a conflict is not a fight. A conflict is when you want something from someone or from yourself that you're not getting. So when you want your partner to talk about their feelings and they're not talking about their feelings, that conflict, you want something that they're not giving you, triggers your limiting belief. And then you start behaving from your limiting belief rather than from your superconscious desire. So instead of focusing on what kind of relationship you'd love to create for yourself, you focus on how the other person isn't meeting your needs and how unworthy you are. And eventually you become super whiny and you become super clingy and you become super needy, for example. And then the partner goes, you know what, this is not working for me, I'm out of here. And the proof is that when you get left by enough people, every time someone leaves you, it reiterates your belief that you're not worthy. So each limiting belief has a set of compensatory behaviors. And we don't notice, the belief doesn't matter. It's the behavior, because you can notice the behavior. You can become aware of the behavior. When you know what the behavior is, then you can know that, oh my goodness, I've got my focus on my limiting belief. If you try this, you will be horrified, actually, how much of your focus is in your limiting beliefs, right? And the other way of recognizing it is when you deliberately try to avoid conflict. Now, conflict, as I said, is not fighting. Conflict is where you've got to go outside your comfort zone. Conflict is where you've got to maybe make yourself vulnerable. Conflict is where you may have to be honest with the other person. Conflict is where you've got to do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. The minute you rationalize why you shouldn't be doing the conflict, there's a very good chance that you're focusing on your limiting beliefs. So the most common limiting beliefs, there are 12 of them, according to William Whitecloud, and they all have their compensatory mechanisms, but the most common ones are I'm not worthy. So the compensation is seeking approval from others and being good. I'm not good enough seeks wholeness through achievement. So I'm not good enough, all right? Always had to learn the next thing, do the next workshop, learn the next thing, read the next book, be the best at, have to cum laude the degree, okay? And the irony is that everything you think is going to make you whole, when you've achieved that thing, you realize that you're still not whole, so that you've got to go on to the next thing, okay? I'm invisible. This one, very often, they never ask for what they want, because why should I ask for what I want? Why should I tell people what I want? They should just intuit what I want. But I can't tell them what I want because actually I'm invisible. They're not going to hear me anyway. I'm powerless. Powerless collects external symbols of power. Many politicians have I'm powerless as a limiting belief. Not all, just many. I can't trust myself, others, or the world. People who have this as a limiting belief very often do it on their own. I'll just do it myself. Oh my God, I've got this one, but mine is because of control. I don't belong is another common one. They really try to be likable so that they aren't rejected, or they become extremely weird and very quirky so that they're automatically rejected. And then they go, well, you know, it's because I'm so weird, I don't want to be part of the crowd. So not all people who have this are always compensating, but there is always a compensatory behavior. So just to recap, right? No, this is not a recap. Okay, so sorry, that was the one terminal. That was the negative battery terminal, right? Oh, I'm losing myself here. Let me just go to my notes. So that's your negative battery terminal. The negative battery terminal is your limiting beliefs, really, all right? All your fears and your limitations. So we have to uncover those. We have to find out what those are so that we become aware of them and so that we can use them to create what we love. The crocodile clip has to go on the negative terminal of the battery. Now, how do you connect to what you would really love? How do you do this? Well, there's this process, and this is a William Whitecloud process called circle work. I don't know if that's what he calls it. I just call it circle work. And essentially, this is an intuitive process. I'm just going to explain it to you really quickly. You basically go, you get that. If I was doing it with a client or you're doing it yourself, you get yourself into sort of an alpha brainwave state, you know, sort of relaxed in that sort of semi-meditative kind of state. And then you connect to innocence. In other words, you connect to like that innocence of a young child so that you don't take any of your preconceptions in this process with you. You obviously connect to your higher self as well. And then you imagine a golden circle in front of you, and that circle symbolizes your superconscious choice, essentially. Let's just say that you're going to do health. Okay, so you're going to go, okay, I'm doing my circles on health. So you get yourself in a meditative state, you connect to innocence, you imagine the circle that represents what your superconscious wants for your health. You walk into the circle and you just look around and see what you see. So basically you use your intuition. And if you see nothing, you make it up, because imagination and intuition connect you to your superconscious. So most people get an image or a symbol or a scene or a feeling, okay? And then you deconstruct that. Like, so what does this mean? So you might climb into the circle for your health, and it may be, so mine was, I climbed into the circle, and it's like a small waterfall. So not plunging down, it's running lightly. The water is cool, it's crisp. It's like a mountain spring waterfall, right? So what does that mean? It's cool, it's flowing, it's fluid, it's adaptable. It's, you know, what does that mean? Well, it means that that's the kind of health I'm looking for. I'm looking for pure, vital, flexible, flowing health. And whatever words you come up with when you deconstruct that symbol, those are the words that you put into your choice, because those are the words that resonate with that part of you, that superconscious part of you. Then you shut down that circle, you erase it, you do another one, and you step into your ego reality circle. You go and say, okay, what is holding me back in this? What is stopping me from this? Okay, what is my limitation? You climb in there and you see what you can see. Now, sometimes it's a symbol, it's an image, sometimes it's a scene, and it'll usually be, so mine was, it was like a dark, murky swamp. You know, so like, it's not clean. It's like, you don't know what's going on underneath it. You know, Loretta, you better just watch out. Who are you to think that you can have crystal clear pure? I mean, really, Loretta, you know, you're not good enough for that. You're a swamp girl. You're not a mountain stream girl. You're a swamp girl. That's what my ego limitation says, based on my limiting belief of not being good enough. And so those are your two battery terminals. And then you use this, and there's a way. I'm not going to go into that because I'm never going to finish if I do that. All right. So let me just keep an eye on the time here. Ooh, already way over the time. So I just want to tell you this thing. Your ego limiting belief self is like a 3-year-old. It's your 0 to 3-year-old. And your self-realized adult, think of that as like your superconscious. And your life is a car. And the question is, are you letting your 3-year-old drive the car, or are you letting your adult drive the car? That is the same as, is your focus on your limiting belief, or is your focus on what it is that you'd love to create? So whenever you're going, it's unfair, I need someone to be different to how they are, I need them to be a certain way, why aren't they giving me this, why can't I have this, I'm so frustrated, it's unjust. No, that's all rationally true for you. It's true, I'm not denying it. The fact is, are you focusing on what you think is true for you based on your limiting belief, or are you focusing on how you would love that situation to be? So we get to choose, my friends, and our level of awareness governs how well we can shift our focus, and our energy determines that to a large extent. Okay, I'm not going to go through this. I just want to show you this, all right? I'm sure Mark will let you have the slides. In Shinjutsu, all the organs appear in functional couples, and they all have a related attitude or emotion. And literally by holding the relative finger, the relevant finger, so if you look at the index finger, it's fear and perfectionism. It governs your kidney and bladder organ function energy. Literally by holding your finger, you can actually affect that emotion, because emotions, remember, want to be felt. They don't want to be fixed. I have a particular meditation that I use, a meditation process with my clients, and in the whole body reset program, where I help them to practice to actually strengthen their feeling, their emotions muscle. I had a very traumatic experience, midlife crisis inducer at about 40, I don't know, 3 or so. And I went to see a therapist to make sure that I wasn't nuts, and ended up staying in therapy for 3 years and learning how to feel my feelings. I mean, honestly, talk about a slow learner, like 40 something years. And I'm a very supposedly emotional person. I'm not a very emotional person. I feel things, but I rationalize them, I deny them, I suppress them. I'm a master. Okay, so I don't really have too much time to tell you about the whole body reset program, but essentially these concepts that I've just explained to you, I've put together in a 6-week online group coaching program. In the first week, you learn to uncover your subconscious agendas. In the second week, I really go into depth about how reality creation works, how to uncover your limiting beliefs, because there are techniques to do that, how to recognize your compensatory mechanisms, how to notice when you're triggered, how to shift your focus. In week 3, we do the circle work so that you can actually make a soul-inspired choice around your health. And once you know how to do that around your health, you can do that in any area of your life. And in the 4th week, I have added a therapeutic fast. And it's a guided fast. I go online with all my clients. Ideally, I would love to do this in the retreat setting. That is actually my plan. And the therapeutic fast is we go from external nutrition to internal nutrition. We go from external stimulation to internal stimulation. We go from engaging with the outside world to engaging with the inside world. We declutter and we literally connect ourselves to the source of all creation that resides within us. And we really connect deeply. That fast really allows you to connect deeply to your relationship with food and your relationship with self-nurture and self-nourishing. And it's wonderful for your skin and your clarity, and it improves your immune system, and it boosts your metabolism, and it sets your whole metabolism, blah, blah. It has all sorts of amazing benefits, but it truly is so that you can connect deeply with who you really are. And when we emerge from that, that's when we start applying those intuitive eating principles, because now we've cleared a lot of the clutter. We understand, we've taken away the obstacles. And then in week 6, we integrate and we move it forward. So I'm not going to tell you this. I just want to end with this. I thank you for your attention and for hanging in here for so long with me. It's time for a paradigm shift in health and nutrition. It's time to end the idea that we can punish ourselves to health with restriction, self-hatred, and discipline. My wish for all of us is that we learn to nourish ourselves fully so that we can experience the joy and the freedom of optimal health and high vitality, because I truly believe that joy and vitality is everybody's birthright. And when we change, then the world changes. So namaste. I thank you for your attention. I really appreciate your time, taking your time. It's my bedtime already. So I appreciate you being up here late, especially in South Africa. And if you have any questions, please, I'll be happy to answer them. I'll have a look in the Q&A. Okay, Baljit asked, what is co-create? So what is co-create? Well, my understanding, this is my understanding, okay? I'm not an expert. So my understanding of co-creation is that we acknowledge that the creator, whatever our belief is in the creator, is the ultimate creator, and that we, being an outflow or an expression of that creative energy, we get to co-create our reality. That's my understanding. So it's you and God, as it were, creating your life together. And I believe that's the concept of free will, is that, so is it destiny, or like, do you have any control over your life? Well, you either believe that it's random and you have no control, or you have to believe that it's controlled. Okay, and I believe that it's ordered and that there actually is. Not control, but certainly, yeah, I do believe that we create our own lives. We're all born in different circumstances. We're born with different abilities. We're born with different gifts and talents, maybe. We're born with into various families and socioeconomic conditions, but within ourselves, our ability to be creators, I believe that that's equal. And when we align ourselves with that energy, whether you're calling it aligning yourself directly with the divine or aligning yourself with God, that's when you become the co-creator of your reality. So that's my understanding. I hope that answered your question.